Hi everyone, let's paint together today this beautiful 20 centimeters mandala gentle flower. So light a little bit played with camera, but this real color now. So already everything ready. So lines I did every 51.5 degrees. I decided to go with 7 flowers, so I need to divide 344 7 and every 1 centimeter rows. So let's start it. First of all, I want to talk to you about one custom color I did prepared. So I mixed up light Mocha with this extreme shine DecoArt pearl, and I did literally maybe one drop, 10% of pearl, so to not play with consistency too much. So first central drop I did with Nuvo Art caramel creme drops, not too big, maybe 5, 6, 7 millimeters. You can fix shape with thin tool if you like, but usually it's coming up pretty nice from the bottle. Mine a little bit stick because I opened quite some time ago. And let's move forward. So first one, I'm doing really small dots, with 1.5 millimeters. In this particular sizes, I can fit 2 between each line, and the color is Almondine. Next row we are making with 2.5 millimeter tool, and this time we also can fit 2 between lines, and the color is white peach. All materials are in description, so you can check it out. And as usual, we are placing dots as close as we can to each other, but not touching each other. So be careful, and if you are not sure if it's too close or whatever, you just wait when previous colors dots you placed when dry out, and after that you can make next row or place next color. The next row we are making with color Toffee, also DecoArt, Americana, and the size is 2.5 millimeters. And we can place dots on every single line and between the lines. This is working with these sizes this time. Like that. So one on each line and one dot between. Camera a little bit playing out. You see when you can see my hand, it's warmer. So technically this painting will be more warm. If you put in enough paint from the beginning, you see your dots will be visible without any kind of addition work. But in this case you need to be careful, so this you need to still leave space between dots to separate them one from another. You can see if some of dots smaller, you can just literally add paint on the top when it's still fresh. It's easy to do, but be careful, obviously. And moving forward, the next color I want to use, it's size with tool size 7mm, and the color is warm beige, and I'm placing on each line, as you see, and on the next row, on top of the next row. And you can add a lot of paint from the start, so you don't need to do anything else. It just will dry out like that. There's a lot of paint and visible on this background. Even the name is beige, you can see it looks like a little bit more to pink side, but still beautiful and really works with this palette. And for next move, I wanna highlight a little bit this big dot that we just placed, and with 1mm tool I'm placing dots around these big dots, and I'm using my first custom color. Only one is this particular paint, but let it call first. Or if you don't have any metallic pearl color, just light Mocha. And moving around, so we're technically placing one big dots on the top like that. You can come back a little bit, a couple of times, a little bit more, and with one attempt making walk around the dots like that. And this way, with a lighter color, we are even more highlighting these dots as we did with a warm beige color. And one after another, as I said, if you're not sure yet in your moves, just wait until previous rows. Try it out, row, stroke, whatever you're doing, and you can move and add another color. Remove all bubbles if you see one, and move forward. And again, coming back to white peach color and making really thin, small strokes with this thin brush. So choose the thinner one brush that you can, or just don't press too much when you're making strokes, and starting in the middle between lines, as you see on the video, and just making around and releasing pressure, like that. So this simple trick, when are you making a line like that on a fresh paint, given when it's dry out, this effect that it's visible amount of paint on your painting. So this is simple but really helpful trick. So you can do this yourself. If you're pressing enough, you'll get this line anyways. But as I said, if you for example, didn't find a thin enough brush, you can technically don't press too much with a little bit bigger brush. And when you're not pressing, you can just literally come back to afterwards and make a line on the top when your paint's still fresh. As you see, I'm doing this on a video. So I decided to make 7 flowers. That's why I choose so weird measurement. That's why. So we'll see how it goes. But it's definitely visible. You can see it's kind of looks another way as I used to, so it's interesting. And moving forward, I'm coming back to the color Almondine and making thin strokes like that around these flowers that we just created, starting in the middle and going up like that, almost to the line, to the end of this row, like that. Plain, really interesting. Not as usual we used to. And as I said, if you're not sure in your strokes yet, wait until previous paint dry out and make next moves. We got like almost like a star, 7 petals, 7 flowers. And moving forward, so don't worry about they're not dissimilar. We will fix this now. A little bit, just small brush, and the color is Toffee again. I'm starting on a next row, next line, and moving around. And you see, this way we are kind of starting from the same line, from the same row, and this way we are kind of fixing that maybe these previous strokes were not dissimilar. This way we are kind of covering this issue, if we call it this way. Anyways, it's just your art. You don't need to make this ideal. You need to create what's coming from inside of you. And moving like that, pressing enough to make this As you see on the feed in a video, it's so visible when you're pressing now. You're just getting these lines anyway in the middle of your strokes. And I'm making these strokes close enough, but obviously I'm not trying to make it on the top of each other. I don't need this in this particular way of painting. So we started almost on a line. Like that. So I'm choosing this oval shape tool for next one. You can go with just classic dot, and the size is length 15-16 millimeters. If you are going with classic one, you see the bottom on this line. If you're going just with classic one, choose around 10 millimeters, maybe 11 diameter, and place, if you're doing classic one, place it on the middle of next row, because middle of this shape, all shape dots on little, almost on the middle of next row. And with thin tool, I'm moving paint a little bit around. When it's dry out, I want to place another color on top. And like that, 1 millimeter tool, and the same way I'm walking around dots, and the color is Almondine. And walk around as much as you can. So first central one I'm making a little bit bigger and walking around. The first one I'm placing a couple of millimeters, maybe 1 millimeter from the big one, from the dot, and walking around. And it's interesting how it's even more highlighting this big dot we just placed. For next one, I will use again white peach, and this time I will place one bigger dot, a little bit like 3 millimeters below, and two below, and walking around with smaller tool. Let's start again. I'll try explain again. So 3 millimeters from this previous row, I'm placing white dots, and two between, like that. And with the smaller tool, I'm walking around like that. You can make, for example, big ones, all of bigger ones like that, and walking around with a small one after that. You can place two like that and one on the top. Maybe even this way it's a little bit easier. So two around and one on top. Around the big one that we placed of previous row and one on the top. And after that, walking around as much as paint available on your tool. When we are walking around, we are not coming back for more paint. We're just walking with the same amount of paint when we took at the beginning of this walking. And this way, next more dots getting smaller, 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 smaller. Like that. And you are getting this nice effect. Like when this go like to in almost like in shadow. Beige color we are getting from Toffee. So Toffee paint and middle-sized brush, and you see how I'm placing these dots, strokes. I'm making like this almost near, like a little bit like it's open flower. I'm not going a little bit on the top, literally around this base, maybe 2 millimeters up and around. It's interesting how these colors contrasting which are with each other and with base, and with these particular colors, base is also working like a color. I like it very much. I like it a lot. Removing any bubbles that we got, and we can see. And next move we are making with, again, we're coming back to this thin brush that we got and our first custom color, or if you're using just light Mocha. And what I'm doing, I want to add like small strokes and on the top of these flowers that we are creating. I'm going literally on the top and around, a little bit like that. I'm not going too far, maybe just to the middle of this flower. And highlighting this zone like that. Almost starting from the edge of mandala. Obviously not from the edge. I'm still like a couple of millimeters, but I'm using all space this way and making this flower like slightly open. And this way, with such small petals, we can literally work with all surface of our painting. Like that. Middle-sized brush, and the color is white peach again. I want to create like a little bit open petal. So what I'm gonna do, I'm starting like maybe a couple of millimeters up from this beige one that we just created, and like that walking around with my brush, and you see I'm getting this interesting effect, not usual one. So a couple of millimeters aside like that and around. If you worry how to make it, wait until previous strokes dry out, and after that you can try and experiment with this shape if you are worried that you can't do this, for example, or you don't know how to do this. And if it's not working, you can easily remove and try again. It's a beautiful effect. We're getting like open flowers, open petals. You can a little bit correct form if you want to. Don't forget it's brush in your hands and you're literally creating whatever you want. Don't think that everything should be according to the rule. You are creating your own rule on your painting. The color is white peach. With the same effect, next strokes I want to do with this color, first custom color, and I want to play this space between flowers. I'm choosing a little bit bigger tool. First custom color or light mocha if you're using just light mocha, and I'm placing strokes like that, a little bit around, almost a little bit on it higher than previous ones, that peach ones we did, like that. You can make it a little bit wider if you want to. And now when I'm placing it, I'm looking at another flower nearby, because at this point we are starting to look how it looks in the total, not only one particular color. And this time, this way, we may and we can a little bit correct sizes between flowers. So from this point, just look around a little bit closer. You can make some strokes bigger, some thinner, wider, so you can literally do whatever you want. You can even, these strokes, you can place a little bit farther, like that. And like that. And I wanna make a base for these flowers with warm beige and the same brush. I'm starting literally over there on a base flower and moving these strokes along, but only maybe on a half way, like that. And again, you see how nicely it's worked when we pressing enough on a brush, and this on the stock, this in the middle we get in this line that giving like this effect that it's a lot of paint on our painting. And I like how we adding this warm beige and this warming up our paint immediately. And also camera a little bit playing with colors, so just don't worry. When I'm moving my hand, camera also moving colors, but it works really nicely. And after that, I'm making a little bit more strokes around the flower, the same brush, and I will use again Toffee, and I'm placing a little bit below, as you see, going only to the middle, to the previous we just created strokes. And this way I'm looking how it's connected between flowers. I'm leaving a little bit space between, not too close. But as I said, at this point, I can really work with the space between flowers. So I'm starting below and moving around. Like that. And we are making our flower like more and more petals, like more open ones. And the color is Toffee, as I said. All materials in the description. We are working a little bit another way this time, so we are working the space between flowers. Not too far, just to the end of our previous strokes with warm beige we just created at the bottom of the flower. Like that. You can add a little bit more paint if you want to. Yeah, it's working really nicely all together. I like this palette a lot. And now we are doing next strokes with warm beige and the same brush. And this time I connected dots like that. So we are connecting colors in this way around the flower. And again, you are playing, we're starting a little bit below and maybe 1 centimeter below, and you are playing with the space between flowers, and you are correcting if you need a couple of millimeters one or another side, maybe some strokes a little bit wider or thinner, and you can easily fix it this way. Yeah, it's so gentle. And you see our base color, literally another color on the paint. With black one you are getting the effect, the shadow, the deep of the paint. But with this one, it is more like another color already existing on your painting. Yeah. The same brush, and I wanna add a little more strokes with our first custom color like that. So if you're not getting enough space over there, just leave it, but I got some, so I'm choosing my first custom color, or if you're using just light mocha, use just light mocha and move around like that. I'm just adding this and releasing brush. I'm not hidden somewhere with this stroke. Just release and brush. And interesting that this way we are literally creating this another flower this way. So interesting. Again, you can correct a little bit size when we're placing these strokes. Wider, thinner, more paint, like that you can add easily. And finishing up. And it's already really nice. We're just adding final details. It's beautiful. So what I'm gonna do next, before I'm letting everything dry out, I want to add final details and come back like an hour. So what I'm gonna do, I want to add some 3D drops on the top of these ones. We got a little bit space, as you see. Be careful, paint's still fresh, just remember about that. Maybe wait until everything dry out if you are worried about that. And the really small ones with the same 3D drops, Nuvo, and over there on the top of this one, like that. Again, in this interesting way, we are literally just created one more row of flowers. And when you're adding 3D drops like that, this is literally highlighting this. My bottle a little bit stick because I opened it quite some time ago. So 2.5mm tool and white peach. I'm adding nice dots like that and like that, so literally in two places, on the top of this light one and on top of warm beige, and with nice amount of paint. Don't touch each other, and this way it's easily, you can add a lot of paint from the beginning to make these dots really visible. As you see, I'm not making these strokes ideal. This is not my main purpose. I want to create beautiful mandala and got enjoyed the painting, the process. So it's, for me, it's more like about the creation, the process of creation. And after that, one more details also with this small oval shape tool and white peach color. I'm painting like that, so small it means 5, maybe 7 millimeters length. I'm placing this like that, also with normal kind of amount of paint between these strokes and on the top of these ones, with normal amount of paint so they're visible. It's really contrasting with good contrast with our base color. All materials are in description, you can check it out. And like that. So now we can let it dry out and come back after that. I'm placing 3D drops on the bottom of this oval shape, or if you did classic one, just on a bottle like that. And with thin tool, I'm making nice tail. I don't want to make it too big, to be honest. It's so gentle when it's small one. So you can do whatever you want. Obviously, you can make it a little bit bigger if you want to. I just playing with these thin ones, small drop and thin tails, because it's making so gentle effect. And with white peach, I'm placing dots on the top part of this oval shape because I got some space, and this way it's making so much more interesting. This simple trick making this painting much more interesting, and colors connecting with each other. Or you can use 2.5mm tool. And everything dry out. As you remember, you can place, first of all, I wanna with a thin brush make a little bit more strokes with our first custom color, all light mocha. I'm starting like near this pink one and moving around like you see on video. So it's kind of between this light and white peach color. Sorry, I'm calling this pink, it's white peach. And making these thin strokes around. I'm playing with this space that's still left on mandala, and this interesting way, these strokes, because they are lighter than a base color, they're even more highlight, making our paint lighter. Lighten up a little bit. You see how it's easy. Again, really simple trick, and it's working. So I'm going around this oval shape and between the strokes. And I can do this because this brush really thin and long enough to make it this kind of a strokes. You can actually make it even with tools, I believe. Like, look at this, how it's feels like much lighter with just these small ones. Coming back to our 3D drops, everything dry out, and I'm placing small ones like that on this oval shape, on the bottom of the oval shape, and with needle, little needle, I'm making small tails to the center. So over there it is towards the flower, and over there between the strokes. If you want to add a little bit more, I'm making these really small ones. This is to help in making a little bit thinner remove drops if you need one. And again, I'm making these really small ones because I like this effect of gentleness with the small ones you are getting. And small tails. Just with a needle. Maybe you got like really thin tool, so you can do this with thin tool, technically. And we are finishing. And what I want to do, I want to add a little bit more small 3D drops like that between petals. And with needle, literally thin tool, I'm moving like, I'm making like a petal. So like a little bit between strokes and a little bit like making this interesting open shape also. And this is last details you can do or not to do, just decide yourself. And I think it's making this a little bit, paint a little bit more like rich. And this with a needle like open shape. The same way as moving as we did with the strokes. And moving around like that. And finishing. So hope you enjoy this painting, this gentle flower mandala. Hope you enjoy this and see you on next one. Bye.